Welcome to this wonderful platform. If it is your first time of stopping by or coming across this channel for the first time, you are welcome. Please, if you like what you see here, after watching, subscribe, put on your notification bell. It's very, very important because it's going to help you to know when I upload a new video. In this channel, I present to you news on daily basis on what is happening in the whole world, especially in Nigeria and in Biafra land. Yes, I'm Mother Biafra. I bring to you Biafran news. So before I do that, what I always do is that I analyze it and I sit down there to watch the video together with you. Then we'll come to the comment section to talk about it. Of course, everybody is entitled to his or her opinion. That is why the comment section is there for you to contribute, leave your ideas, your thoughts, your belief about the videos that you have watched. Please, as we are doing this, let us do it constructively. As we hop into today's video, remain blessed. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate your massive support in this channel. As we
get your view on how we can permanently arrest the kidnap in the northwestern region of the country.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm very, very happy. I just came across this information about the release of the students from the Kajuru local government, which is my state. We have agonized since the day of this kidnap, and it's really great to hear that these students have finally been released. By the same token, it is sad that the cycle of reprisals in southern Kaduna state is becoming deeper. There is a cycle we are beginning to observe that has to be broken if this is going to be contained. Conflicts in the southern part of the state of Kaduna state are very, very, very difficult to resolve because they have deep social and historical roots, and because the communities there are so intertwined that it's really, really difficult to arrive at some kind of arrangement that gives every community at least a minimum sense of security. So that is really sad. I'm afraid on the basis of experience alone, this kind of reprisals is going to continue because you don't have a deployment in spite of the fact that there is a special operation in that area and in some parts of Plateau State. You don't have a deployment of military and police that will actually police every community to a point where it feels safe. Reprisals can take place at any time, anywhere. And what all these talks about, Bethel Baptist School, the issues in Zangon Katab, the issue that you mentioned in Zamfara Katsina, is that the state is failing very badly in securing communities. Huge numbers of communities are literally packing up and leaving their villages and communities and moving to areas where they feel they're safe. The bandits chase them there and attack them. So the countryside in the north, which is most of the north, is becoming extremely vulnerable. It's literally sitting there waiting for bandits and kidnappers to attack it. If the administration of President Buhari has any plans to radically improve the manner communities and individuals are protected, it's going to take a long time to manifest. One, because you need to improve the capacity of the military and the police and the intelligence services, and this takes time, it takes resources, and we haven't seen the kind of mobilization that is required to achieve this. Secondly, the communities are becoming desperate. You hear governors now talking about telling citizens to protect themselves openly. Governors are saying to the communities, protect yourselves. And that means only one thing. No matter what kind of interpretation you give it, the governors are saying, if they attack you with guns, find guns. They would say it in this language, but that's the only way. How do you protect yourself against guns, RPGs, sophisticated armaments, except you buy your own gun, buy your own bullets, and defend yourself? That's how bad it is. And we need to recognize this. This conflict is going to get worse. The more the state fails to provide security to communities, the more communities will become desperate. And when you begin to hear governors now saying, you're on your own, find a way to protect yourselves, you are literally talking about anarchy. And that's the situation where we are.
So it takes me to some of the decisions that the president came up and when he gave the directive and approvals on the grazing reserves in 25 states, 368 grazing reserves. And part of it stemmed from what the presidency said, there are security issues, the clashes between the communities, between herders, between farmers. This is age-long. And from your own point of view, there's been talk about Ruga. There's been talk about the southern governors and the governors generally saying that we can no longer allow cattle to move around freely, openly, which has been one of the major issues of the clashes between farmers and herders. But this directive of President Buhari for the committee to commence their work or to continue with their work, what do you make of it?
Well, I would ask the question, if I had a chance to ask the president, what do you intend to do with this data? First of all, there's a huge amount of data that ordinarily should tell the president. A lot of research has been done, including one done by the convener of the Northern Elders Forum and a few other people, Professor Ango Abdullahi, that outlines exactly where those 360-odd grazing routes and reserves exist. On paper, they exist. In reality, a lot of them have been overtaken by large urbanization, encroachment, which has been licensed and by law because governors have signed documents and papers that allow people to build on them. And most of all, now they don't exist to the degree that they may be physically there, but it is very, very dangerous for any Fulani man and his cattle to traverse those places, even though they exist on paper as legally established grazing routes and reserves. But this begs the question. The Nigerian Constitution vests land in states, vests the power to administer those lands in governors. I would have thought that, and again, I have to say this, I'm not a lawyer, but I would have thought that the president would be availed the best legal advice, which is to remind him, if he doesn't know, that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will be severely stretched to support him. Governors can actually repeal grazing routes and grazing reserves that exist in their state by virtue of the powers that they have. And so all they need to do is to say, okay, maybe they existed, they were designed 50, 60, 70 years ago, but now I don't want them to exist in my state, and I have the powers to repeal those routes and reserves. And then it will have to be an issue of what the president intends to do then. So coming forward to him and say, Mr. President, we can show you a Nigerian map that outlines every route and every reserve that exists. It's not very difficult. What is the difficult thing is, what does the president want to do with these routes and reserves? He has a number of options. He can insist, he has the right to insist that governors who are signing banning laws, banning open grazing, allowing encroachment or obliteration of grazing routes and reserves, they are wrong, in which case he can take them to court and insist that those routes and reserves should be freed and restored back. That's one option. The second option could be that he should engage those governors. Gentlemen, this is not a federal problem. It's not a northern problem. It's not a Fulani problem. It is a Nigerian problem. The Fulani and his cattle is a Nigerian issue. It's not a northern issue. It's not a federal issue. It is the Fulani has a right to move in areas where he can find food and fodder and food for himself anywhere in the country. The existence of grazing routes and reserves is not a favor to the Fulani. Think of the irony. This country is blessed in so many ways. Two of them is that God gave us a huge amount of land and a huge amount of livestock. It's a failure of Nigerian leadership that we cannot manage these two assets. This is what all these things tell about. Is it impossible to find the kind of leadership that will say there is a way in which you can both use this land and allow the asset that is our livestock to coexist? This is the fundamental failure of leadership in this country. I'm not saying this problem started now. started a long time ago. So governors that are signing open grazing laws against open grazing, governors that would say, for instance, no, please don't come up with this business of gazetted grazing routes, because we can ungazette them tomorrow by signing a law that repeals them, because the power to administer land is vested in us. But beyond that, the question really is, do governors feel an obligation to protect Nigerians who are Fulani and their cattle if they are law-abiding? Do they recognize the fact that the existence of grazing routes and reserves actually serves to protect communities as well as protect cattle and the Fulani? This is the way it does that. If you have designated, known, clearly demarcated routes and reserves, grazing reserves, everybody knows about them. No one should attack Fulani or his cattle if they are operating and staying within established grazing routes and reserves. By the same token, any Fulani or his cattle who veers away from these gazetted routes and reserves breaches the regulations regarding that, and is therefore liable to be punished depending on what the punishment is. So it is a very, very effective and safe way in which you can manage both land and livestock. It is established, it is centuries old in West and Central Africa. It has existed in so many places. Now you have politics coming into it. A lot of governors feel that they have the right to insist that the Fulani and his cattle should not be seen in their states. They play to a gallery which sees Fulani and his cattle as a threat, whether they actually manifest that threat or not. They appear in the eyes of people as responding to concerns of people. A lot of these concerns are genuine, by the way. And most of all, they forget the fact that there is a political underpinning to this whole thing. You push away the Fulani, you push away his cattle. You sign laws that says anywhere I see Fulani, I see cattle, anywhere I see Fulani, I'm going to prosecute or I will take other legal steps to do.
But Doc,
the president digs in.
Yeah. Let me quickly add that I'm not sure that is the objective of the anti-open grazing laws, which, by the way, the Federal High Court in Abuja affirmed the position of the state that they have jurisdiction to make those laws. I guess what the governors are saying is that there should be a civil way in which the herders can keep their cattle within range and allow them to ranch or to create ranches where they can easily be able to coordinate and make them habit in those areas. I'm not sure there is any governor in Nigeria. Almost 10 or more states have now put up that law, or made that law happen in their state. But I know the Northern Elders Governors Forum, you were the one who released that statement and you spoke about it, that the position of the Southern governors is such that it's splitting up the country. Is it splitting up the country, or that the Southern governors have realized that this is what is causing the deaths of their own people and they've decided to make laws to stop it?
We're not against open grazing either. We're in support of ranching. We are in support of domesticating cattle. We're in support of modern ways in which both the cattle and the Fulani man can rest from this very worrisome, very tiring, very unproductive way in which it can be done. What we are insisting on is that this haste to sign laws that ban open grazing is both counterproductive. It is very damaging to the spirit of coexistence, and it begs the question. Now, there's a point at which the laws that have been signed to ban open grazing coincide with this idea of rediscovering routes and grazing reserves. If there are routes and grazing reserves, they don't necessarily contradict a law against open grazing. Open grazing exists because there are no routes and reserves. The Fulani roams around wherever he goes because he doesn't have access to what rightfully and legitimately belongs to him in the sense of what government provides. that this is the only way to go. And when you get to this place, you can stop here and you can take water and you can eat, your cattle can eat. And this is the law. But where he doesn't have that, he roams around. Now, you say you don't want open grazing. Fine. You don't want, there are no reserves don't exist anymore. Even if President Buhari wants to reinvent them, he's going to find it very difficult. He has to beg the governors to give him the land to do so, or to allow the leftover of those reserves and routes to come back to reality. And I don't think governors are in the kind of mood, particularly governors in the southern part of the country, are not in the kind of mindset to say, okay, we would allow the return of grazing routes and grazing reserves. So these things are interrelated. The point I'm making is that the Fulani issue is a national issue. It should not be treated as if it's a problem for somebody else. It's not a southern issue, it's not a northern issue, it's a national issue. And both the president and the southern governors are wrong in the manner in which they're going about it. If the president thinks he can ram the idea of these grazing routes and reserves down the throat of governors, then he either doesn't understand, he's getting the wrong legal advice, he's not worried about the politics and the security of his decision, and I'm afraid he's going to come unstuck, because I don't see any way in which he can insist that grazing routes and reserves, particularly in the southern part of the country, should be retrieved, dusted, and made operational. Even if they are, it would be a very foolish Fulani man who would take his cattle through a designated route and reserve on paper, simply because President Buhari says, look, you can go to Ebonyi, just follow this route and keep going. Nobody would do that. He's not protecting even people who are not carrying cattle around the country, not to talk of a Fulani man who has to traverse huge territories with a lot of hostility.
Yeah.
What about security? Even if you can
let me jump in quickly, Doc. Yeah, let me jump in quickly.
Sure.
One of the worries, I spoke with the governor of Kano State exclusively on this matter. And one of the worries of these governors, I guess you're a Fulani man yourself, Dr. Akim Ahmed, and one of the things that he raised is the infiltration of foreign Fulanis into the country, and which he said they're difficult for them to identify who they really are. And these are the guys who come into the country, attack innocent Nigerians and farmers, intrude into the farmlands of farmers in the southern or the other part of the country, and go into the forest, perpetrate this evil, kill people, maim people, and run out of the country, because they cannot be able to hold them accountable to it, because they freely move. Now, how difficult is it for the nomadic Fulani man to change the orientation or the cultural belief that he can only do his trade by moving around the country? Because those who argue that this is a business idea and no part of the country should be favored, everybody should be given an open field to operate. So a Fulani man should not be giving such an open trade policy that it can move just around. These are some of the issues that have been raised. How do you identify the killer Fulani man who come from perhaps other parts of the country, other parts of the world or in the region?
I think that's a fair question. I think you do know. I hope you do know that Ganduje is even more of a Fulani man than myself. I mean, he's a bona fide, true, genuine Fulani man. I'm sure he has a herd of cattle, so he should know. Ironically, the best people to police Fulani is the Fulani. If you identify the Nigerian Fulani and you don't want other Fulani to come into Nigeria, there's something called the ECOWAS protocol. What the Nigerian government needs to do is to take this issue up and address this at a level where other nations, where Fulanis traverse and come into Nigeria because the climatic changes in the climate makes it necessary for cattle to move around. We don't want your Fulani coming in. Keep your own Fulani there and let's deal with our own. The Fulani who lives in Nigeria, who is being accused of submitting to the foreign Fulani, or who our own Fulani is law-abiding, their Fulani are lawbreakers, they don't respect our law, they do these things. The best people to know this is the Fulani. The Fulani knows his own people, and he knows the ones that come in. Unfortunately, the Nigerian state does not want to allow the Fulani to become part of the decision-making process. Everybody sees him as a threat. Everybody sees him as a problem. Everybody sees him as something to sweep away. And when you hear a governor of Kano, like the governor of Kano State, say, oh, it's the foreign Fulani, how the hell does he, forgive my language, how does he know this? If he's Fulani and he knows the Nigerian Fulani, he's a governor, an APC governor, with the president governor. Why doesn't he come and tell President Buhari, Mr. President, then 90% of the problems of the Fulani is caused not by the Nigerian Fulani, but by the foreign Fulani. So this is what we do to the Nigerian
But then,
Fulani.
how do you then handle...
them.
Yeah, how do you handle the matter of finding the Fulanis that, I mean, when I was growing up, we call them Bororos where we grew up. That's kind of nickname that you gave them because they had their sticks.
That's the name. That's the name.
Yeah, and they had their sticks, but now we have these herders with AK-47. And it has, in fact, been linked into this issue of banditry because some of them say, reported that in some of these communities in the Northwest region, that some of these guys in the shape and form of herders, they come with their herd and they kidnap and kill people. They come in the shape and form of the average Fulanese. Then how do you then handle, how did it get into the point that we now find, other than the stick, we now see them with AK-47?
Well, you see, this is, again, I think part of the problem is that those who have responsibility for maintaining law and order and security are poorly informed about a lot of these things. Look, if you go to places in Zamfara, and it's the papers, a lot of some of these papers actually take pains to investigate. A large number of the people who kidnap people, who keep them, who the banditry, are actually Nigerians. They know their fathers. We know where they come from. We know the villages they grew up in. We know where they were 10 years ago. We know where they are now. Read some of the papers, and they will tell you, this bandit who is known by this name, his father is this, and he's from this place. We know. This is a very complicated issue. The bottom line is this. It is important for Nigeria to sit down and try to analyze, what is this Fulani issue? What is it that we can handle? And what is it that represents the kind of issue that we need to collaborate with others to deal with? But this business of just passing the problem around, oh, there is a lawful Fulani, there is a foreign Fulani, there is another one. The problem is that the Fulani has become a problem. The Fulani as an issue has become a problem, and the Nigerian state has neither the thinking capacity, it is not willing to go beyond the normal bandits and kidnappers, and as a consequence of that, the problem is just getting worse. You need to put this problem on the table and look at it. Now, you ask the question, how do we know what solution, for instance, is feasible? In the next 1 year, how do you deal with the bandits that are holding huge numbers of cattle and people in Zamfara, in parts of Niger State, in Kaduna State? How do you deal with them? Are they Nigerian bandits? Do they come from Chad? Do they come from Mali to Nigeria, take land, take territory? Are there convergence? Are we beginning to see a convergence between Fulanis in bushes as well as extremist fringe religious groups? Is that real? Are we seeing this? Is the Fulani now feeding on the limitations of the Nigerian state in terms of defending communities and therefore literally taking and keeping territories and getting lawful people to run away and move away from them? All these are fundamental issues, and you cannot solve them unless the government really sits down and looks at this problem. All right. You need the governors on board. You need a president who is receiving quality advice, quality information. You need the Fulani, the leadership of the Fulani, as well as other people who are in touch with the...
Thank you for always watching Linda's TV show. I will see you again in my next video. Remain blessed. I appreciate each and every one of you, and keep on watching Linda's TV show. If you have not yet subscribed, please, I beg you to do that so that you'll be getting more updates from me. Bye-bye.